Thank you. May I ask you to sit down if you can, please, especially those in the front? Buon pomeriggio. Good evening. Thank you for braving the cold spring of Canada. My name is Pal Di. Hello. Some of you may know me as the former Chief Executive Officer at Columbus Center. Today, I am simply a volunteer with the committee. Welcome. I would like to call upon the person who's probably the single most reason why we're here, who had a vision and a dream, Mr. Marino Topan.
Thank you, Pal. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, honorable, distinguished guests, welcome to this historic event of the Italian community. This memorial, it took it took 50 years to materialize. When I was working in construction in the 50s, I saw so many people killed on the job. And what happened? We got to the funeral, we even passed the hat to collect some money for the widows and the children. But 2 or 3 days later, the names of these victims were totally forgotten. And when I started working for the labor movement as an organizer, again, I've seen so many casualties, so many workers killed on the job or died because of the job that we had to do something about it. We had to create a memorial so we can remember their names. And finally, today we have achieved this purpose. Thank you. This is a history-changing project, not only for the Italian Canadian immigrants, but for the history of Canada. Our community have paid a higher price on the extreme sacrifice of so many of our brothers and sisters that were killed on the job, that they have to be recognized. They have to be remembered. The history of this great country, which gave the opportunity to all of us, will include now our story, the Italian-Canadian story of experience. During the peak of the Italian immigration to Canada, after the Second War, from my view as a construction worker and union organizer, I watched the procession of funeral of fallen workers in horror. Those were truly dangerous times for the Italian working in Canada. We took the most dangerous jobs that no one else wanted. And as we know now, there was an overwhelming number of tragedy, and as each family lost a husband, a father, a son, or a brother, I began to envision this memorial in the hope that one day it will become reality. No loss of life to workplace tragedy by our community will ever be forgotten now, because today we have a memorial, and my dream became a reality. Thank you. Together with my committee, the architect, the builder, and the donors, in kind or in cash, as well as the family story of loss, I'm proud to unveil this memorial, which will finally add our Italian immigrant story officially to the story of this great nation. The committee asks your forgiveness for any mistake we have made. We must have not followed the proper protocol in some things. We are all volunteers. We have spent 6 years of hard work to volunteer to create this project. So if we made some mistake, maybe some names spelled wrong or something, please forgive us, and we will try to correct them. Today is not an important day for the unions, although we thank the union for what they've been doing, especially for safety and to protect the working people. Today is not an important day for the donors, and yet we thank them because we couldn't have done this memorial without their contribution. Today is not an important for the very important people who are here today, although we thank them for their valuable participation and we thank them for the honor of their presence here today. Today is for the fallen workers and for their family, the women and children who lost a lifeline to their future forever. May God bless all of these men, women, and children, and may God bless all of their families. May this memorial offer some peace for the terrible tragedy that befell us in this beautiful province. Finally, may this death not go in vain. May our Italian-Canadian immigration experience not go in vain. May this be the beginning of the official study of the contribution of our people to this beautiful land called Canada. And may the study continue to recognize the profound sacrifice and loss of life of our community. Thank you. What we see in front of us here, what we are about to unveil, you will see 951 names that we have been able to trace through research in the archives, through appealing to the community to let us know if they lost a member of their family. 951. And we started 6 years ago. But only this morning, because now at the last days there's been so much publicity to this project, this morning alone I received 6 new emails with 6 new names that we haven't gotten there. There is still hundreds of people, of fallen workers that are there and nobody knows their names, and they need to be remembered. And the most sad part for me is that we have found so many that were just buried without a name. These are our unknown heroes. And I want to say that their names will not be unknown forever if we can help it. Their search for their names through archives, death certificate, whatever, will continue. And I hope that once our generation is gone, the new generation will pick up where we left on and continue to search for the name of these workers that are unknown and lay in some distant graveyard in some distant corner of this beautiful province. Now I want to thank you, and we have a little surprise for you. We have a gentleman that came all the way here from Leamington, Ontario. He has captured the essence of the immigrant spirit in his song, Noi Immigranti, which we thought would be a fitting opening to our experience in this beautiful land called Canada. This is the life that would have been for all the fallen workers had they not died on a work tragedy. Thank you and welcome Armando Bonfiglio. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Thank you very much. Grazie assai. Quando ho scritto questa canzone l'ho scritta per tutti gli emigranti che abbiamo lasciato la nostra patria in cerca di fortuna, ma oggi la voglio dedicare a tutti gli emigranti che non sono con noi e ci guardano dal paradiso. Questi rumori sono conosciuti da tutti noi emigrati. Sono i rumori che hanno portato a tutti noi lontano. Quanti abbracci, quanti pianti, quante strette di mano, e alla fine sono rimasto sempre un italiano. Noi siamo gli emigranti, tutti brava gente, gente di coraggio nella nostra avventura. Abbiamo girato il mondo senza avere paura, ed ora che sono anziano la vita è sempre più dura. Quanti ricordi, quanti pensieri tornano nella mente. Sono i ricordi sempre più belli di tutta la mia gente. Vorrei tornare e incominciare di nuovo questa avventura, ma poi ci penso di sopra e tutto mi fa paura. Noi siamo gli emigranti, tutti brava gente, gente di sacrifici, senza avere nemici. Abbiamo imparato a parlare francese, tedesco ed inglese, ed ora che sono anziano parlo il dialetto del mio paese. Evviva gli emigranti! Bravi! Noi siamo gli emigranti, tutti brava gente, gente di sacrifici, senza avere nemici. Abbiamo imparato a parlare francese, spagnolo ed inglese, ed ora che sono anziano parlo il dialetto del mio paese. Ed ora che sono anziano parlo il dialetto del mio paese. Thank you e viva gli emigranti, grazie.
Thank you. Thank you. Grazie. Armando Bonfiglio from Leamington, Ontario. There are people from Windsor to Ottawa to Sudbury to Thunder Bay from all over the province, but there's also people from all over the world. And with us we have here to bring a message from Italy is His Excellency, the Ambassador of Italy to Canada, Gian Lorenzo Cornado, who will be followed immediately after by the new CEO of Villa Charities, Eligio Gaudio. Ambasciatore.
Dear ministers, dear members of parliament, your worship, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud, very happy to be here today with you at the Villa Charity Campus on the occasion of the solemn inauguration and unveiling of the monument dedicated to the 1,000 Italian workers fallen in Ontario. Before proceeding to the reading of the message of the President of the Italian Republic, Sergio Mattarella, I would like to thank the Governor of Canada, the Governor of Ontario, and the City of Toronto for their participation to this very important ceremony. Their presence is witnessing their friendship towards Italy, their respect for the Italian Canadian community, and their gratitude for all Italian workers who have contributed to build this extraordinary country, which is Canada. And I would like to thank in particular Prime Minister Trudeau for being so close to Italy and for having been willing to send through his representatives a message in memory of the 1,000 Italian workers fallen in Ontario and to their families. Thanks to this ceremony, thanks to this monument, thanks to the extraordinary work made by Cavaliere Toppan and by the organizing committee, we will never forget the Italian Canadians who sacrificed to give to their children a better future. I'm now reading the message of the President of the Italian Republic, Sergio Mattarella. Desidero rivolgere il mio caloroso saluto e ringraziamento a quanti hanno collaborato per realizzare il memoriale ai caduti sul lavoro italiani in Ontario. La cerimonia odierna rappresenta un doveroso tributo alle loro storie, affinché la memoria del loro sacrificio non si disperda, ma venga tramandata alle future generazioni. Il loro esempio ci richiama ad un'attenta riflessione sul ruolo che ancora oggi l'immigrazione esercita nello sviluppo economico e sociale dei nostri paesi e sull'opportunità di dedicare continua attenzione al delicato tema della sicurezza sui luoghi di lavoro. In questo spirito desidero rinnovare i miei saluti a tutti i presenti e a quanti sono oggi uniti nel ricordo di numerosi italiani che hanno contribuito allo sviluppo e alla crescita economica dell'Ontario e di tutto il Canada. Sergio Mattarella, Presidente della Repubblica Italiana. Grazie.
Grazie, Pa. On behalf of Villa Charities, benvenuti. Look around you and see how many people want to be here for this momentous event today. We're delighted to be joined this afternoon by so many representatives of all levels of government, along with the government of Italy. We also extend a warm welcome to the fallen workers and their families here today. Villa Charities is proud to have been part of this project from the start. Through our donation of the use of the land, we're also proud that our campus is the permanent home to this wonderful memorial. Villa Charities is honored to serve as the custodian for future generations. Look around you. You see Villa Charities residents all about you. Villa Colombo, Caboto Terrace, Casa del Zato, and our wonderful Columbus Center. Truly a great center. The campus is the heart of the Italian community in the GTA, and Villa Charities is a beacon for many Italian Canadians province-wide. So it's only fitting that the Italians who made the ultimate sacrifice in building and developing Ontario will forever be honored in this location. The number, more than 1,000, is a grim reminder of both the enormous contribution and the huge price paid by Canadians in laying the foundation for Ontario's prosperity today. We owe a great debt to Marino Toppan, and the members of the Memorial Committee, including our own Pal Di Julio. These individuals worked tirelessly to turn a dream into an inspiring reality before us. To all of them, please join me in thanking them. The result is a great legacy for the fallen workers whose names are inscribed on these pillars, for their families and for Ontario's Italian community. Before us is an unbreakable link to our community's proud heritage and a place that will draw us together long into the future. In that sense, today marks not only an end, the completion of this wonderful project, but also a beginning. On behalf of Villa Charities, thank you for joining us here today. Grazie.
Thank you, Eligio. If my teeth chatter, it's in sympathy with you out there, so forgive me. We are going to have the Coro San Marco perform for us. Help sing, you'll warm up. The Coro San Marco's been in and around these quarters for over 20 years, and they have graced us with their presence, and they're going to do the national anthems. Signori, a voi. Thank you, Coro San Marco. And now, I'd like to call upon two people. One is to read a little bit about, show some gratitude to the many people who participated and contribute, and probably the most hard work, and later, that's Gino Cucchi, and later, the most hard-working person of the committee who, in fact, probably did a lot of the work, and certainly in the last year. Paolo Breda to give you some information and statistics as to some of the process and the numbers that we've been banding about. Gino?
Ambasciatore Gian Lorenzo Cornado, Minister Christopher Freeland, Minister Kevin Flynn, Minister Stephen Del Duca, Mayor John Tory, special guests Luciano Bentenuto, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the committee and all the families here today, I would like to thank the many donors who made this day possible for both their valuable time and generous contributions of funds. They are too numerous to mention here, and we thank you all. We have been very fortunate to have had volunteers from the start. There were so many who helped along the way, too numerous to mention, and sometimes too numerous to remember. To Professor Angelo Bolotta, who wrote the quote on the base of the memorial, and to Father Vitaliano Papais, who has been our spiritual religious leader from the beginning, we thank you. There have been many Italian organizations who helped move us forward. Michael Tibollo and the National Congress of Italian Canadians, the Consul General of Italy, Dr. Giuseppe Pastorelli, Mario Calla and Bruno Suppo Costi. To the unions who helped fund this project, Liuna 506, Liuna Ontario Provincial District, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 793. We thank you. To our donors who provide substantial support, Tiberio Mascarin, Angelo Breda, Bernardo Funeral Home, Anthony Fusco Sr., Angelo, Elvio, and Leo Del Zotto, John Vince Food, Joe Panettieri. We thank you graciously. To the many trades and sub-trades of the citizen dominus who donated labor, material, we thank you. What you see before you here today, those trades build it. To the primary group of donors, Villa Charities who donated the land, Giannone and Prediconi, our architect who designed this beautiful space, and to Domino's Construction and Citizen Development, all of whom made an enormous contribution to this memorial. Without their effort, this project would not have been completed. Special thanks goes to Joe Cordiano and Ralph Giannone, whose dedication, commitment, and financial contribution through their company, time, and resources made this project possible. In the last few days, we have received names of another 33 workers that lost their lives on the job. We will add these names on the memorial as soon as we can. Let's make sure that their loss is not in vain. Let us never forget. On behalf of all of us and the families here today, representing their fallen family members, we thank you all for making this memorial a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Gino. We're going to postpone Paola's intervention because I want to call upon his worship. Yes, Mr. John Tory. Come on up. Paola will speak later. We're also glad to have another worship. Thank you for making the trip down to 400, Mr. Bevilacqua.
Well, Ambassador and ministers and fellow elected representatives, I may not be able to say, and I asked them specifically not to accommodate me. I would have gladly been here for as long as was required to follow all the others who are speaking today, but I am very pleased in the presence of my fellow elected representatives, in particular members of Toronto City Council who are here with me, and I speak on their behalf as well, Councillor Josh Cole, Councillor Maria Jameri, and Councillor Frank DiGiorgio, to say how honored that I am to be here on this especially unique commemoration of a very important day. You know, across the city as a whole, we have year after year, including this year, proclaimed a day of mourning in memory of all of the working men and women who lost their lives on the job. For many years, we've recognized at very elaborate ceremonies the sacrifice of our first responders, so many of whom tragically lose their lives serving us, but we haven't often focused as much on people who lose their lives in other workplaces. Now we do have a day in late April where we pause and reflect on those workplace deaths to remember the victims and to comfort their families and their co-workers, and also to renew our own commitment to occupational health and safety. Here at the Columbus Centre, one of the hearts of, if not the heart of the great and historic Italian-Canadian community, a unique ceremony of remembrance is taking place today with the unveiling of the Italian Fallen Workers Memorial. Like many genuine community projects, this one has taken many years to complete, and like most Canadian projects of its time, it is built around individual people from this community. It has individual names on it, with many more, unfortunately, but with many more to come. And it names each and every one of the fallen workers discovered thus far by the committee. We often comment in as sincere a way as we possibly can on the role that Italian-Canadian workers played in quite literally building this city. But until today, we haven't had a proper place and a proper way to remember the fact that at least 1,000 Italian Canadians gave their lives in the cause of building this city and this province. And now we have such a place, and that recognition is overdue, as is the recognition of the magnitude of the price paid by this Italian Canadian community in the building of this city and in the building of this province. Come sindaco, la comunità italiana significa tanto per me. È importante che noi riconosciamo il sacrificio che questa comunità ha fatto. Hopefully everyone from school children to seniors, Italian or not, and it may be as important that people who are not Italian Canadians come here and find this place and see this memorial, so that they can come here to learn the stories of courage and contribution, to underline the importance of workplace safety and respect for the law, and to be quietly reminded of one more way of many in which this Italian-Canadian community has made this the great city that we are today. And I will now, on behalf of my colleagues on City Council and the people of the City of Toronto, read a proclamation commemorating this important day, and in so doing not only mark the unveiling of this memorial and all that it represents, but also pay tribute to those who made it happen, some of whom have been recognized and were in the process of being recognized here this afternoon. It reads as follows. Mayor John Tory and the members of Toronto City Council extend warmest congratulations to the Italian Fallen Workers Memorial on the unveiling of the monument. Toronto is one of the world's most multicultural cities, and its vitality and success are due in large part to the many people who have made it their home. Today's unveiling of the Italian Fallen Workers Memorial is an occasion to acknowledge the important contributions and achievements of our Italian community and to honor the many Italian Canadians who helped build our city and our country but lost their lives to work-related injuries. We extend our deepest appreciation to the families and to these, in memory of these workers, and to the Italian community and to everyone involved in this initiative. And it's signed by me and dated April the 28th, 2016. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And now, Paula Breda.
No one could discover the name of an Italian who had been killed by a falling beam. Stelco, Hamilton, 1901. A great number of Italians who have been working in the freight and passenger yards around the city have met their death in the county of York during this past year. Globe and Mail, 1904. William Cronin and an unknown Italian were crushed to death by the fall of a derrick while working at the Trent Canal. Globe and Mail, 1908. The toll of death in construction work on the Transcontinental Railway during the last year was 68. Most of those killed were Italians. Globe and Mail, 1909. Our committee has found only 11 out of these 68 names in the Globe and Mail article, to give you an idea how many names we did not yet find for this beautiful memorial. Not one person can deny the massive contribution of Italian immigrants to this province and this great nation, but today we've also proven the profound loss experienced by our community, a previously untold story. The statistics are overwhelming. A final total of verified deaths due to workplace tragedies on this memorial is 951, men and 2 women, with 241 other men still to be verified, and 32 new ones added just in the past 2 weeks, as this project has become known, which is a grand total of well over 12 or 1,300 Italian workers who perished in this province just because they went to work. Sadly, estimates are in the thousands, and this is in Ontario alone. Our community has paid the highest price, the ultimate price, and today we inaugurate the biggest memorial to individual workplace tragedies, I think, in the whole country of Canada. Most of the tragedies occurred in the mining, railway, and construction industries. Hardest hit were the historical settlements of Cobalt, Elliott Lake, Sudbury, Hamilton, Niagara Falls, Parry Sound, Port Colborne, Sault Ste. Marie, Sudbury, Thorold, Welland, St. Catharines, Port Arthur, Fort William, Timmins, Windsor, and of course Toronto. The worst years for us were between 1907 and 1913, and decreasing only because of the start of World War I, which effectively stopped the traffic of human migration. The second worst span was during the 50s and the 60s, as Italians lost their lives building the roads, sewers, and the homes of Ontario during the Great Building Boom. The pattern of these tragedies is visually represented on each of the columns behind us here today, which are organized by decade and then alphabetically. As a community, we have always known that we were largely responsible for building up this great province, but now, today, we know the staggering statistics and the loss of life too, which seems to be unparalleled in Canada, with tragic consequences for the families who remained. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. It took a lot of work to uncover those dusty newspapers. Not everything is on internet still. We don't want to suggest that this is the only memorial to fallen workers, but Paula mentioned St. Catharines and Thorold and people who worked in the Welland Canal. And we have to share with you a little background from Catherine Powell from the Welland Fallen Workers Memorial.
Thank you very much. I'm really proud to be able to be here to represent the Welland Canal Fallen Workers Memorial Task Force, and I'm really honored to be invited to be a part of your program. Our task force is a group representing the communities along the Welland Canal who are working to develop a memorial for 137 men who died while building the Welland Ship Canal. This memorial will be unveiled in August 2017. The Welland Canal Fallen Workers Memorial will remember those whose lives were lost between 1914 and 1935 on the construction site. Of these, 24 men were Italian. And these also are represented on your memorial today. So there's a connection between the men that are on our memorial and the men that are on yours. Italian workers represent the largest ethnic group of fallen workers out of the 15 nationalities that are represented on our memorial. They could be any of us here today, from the youngest fatality, the youngest Italian fatality on our memorial, which was a 15-year-old Anthony Collini, who tripped and fell from the top of the lock wall, to one of the oldest, 57-year-old Luigi Randucci, who fell from a trestle and was killed. These are just two stories of 137 men and thousands that you have on your memorial as well, and each one is a person who can't be forgotten. We're proud to be able to make the connection between our project and this memorial being unveiled today, and we congratulate the dedication and the hard work of Paula and Marino and your committee in bringing this project to reality and ensuring that future generations remember these workers and their contribution to building our country. Thank you.
On our columns. No one suffered more, however, than the families that were left behind. Many of them are here today. Their children, grandchildren, brothers and sisters, sharing in the memory of the profound loss and the irrefutable pain. The impact on the families cannot be understood or measured by any of the rest of us. Joseph Cordiano, many of you may know him as a former minister, a member of parliament, is a member of that community. A family member of a loved one memorialized in this wall. In building our memorial, Joseph Cordiano, he helped us build this memorial. Joseph Cordiano is the reason the construction of the memorial was completed, but he's also the story behind his participation. Please give a warm welcome to Joe Cordiano to speak on behalf of the families.
Buongiorno a tutti, sono molto lieto di essere qui e sono molto orgoglioso di essere italiano. Grazie. Today is a day of mourning. It's a solemn day. It's a day we remember the men and women who were taken from us forever. It is a day that really shouldn't exist, a day we should never have to mark. My father, Vittorio, was killed on November 2nd, 1959 in a workplace accident. I had just turned 2 years old, and my brother Vince was months old. My mother, Maria, was now a widow. I often try to imagine what she must have felt. My father was just 28 years of age when he was tragically taken from us. Young, vibrant, full of life. He had settled in a new country, started a family. He had a lot to look forward to. For my brother and I, unfortunately, we have no memories of my father. We were much too young. For me, his memory was brought to life through the memory of those people I met in the community when I was a member of provincial parliament. Many people in the community who knew him back in Italy would recount those days. And I want to thank personally all of those people. You gave me something to remember about my father. So today I am very proud that our group of companies, Dominus Construction and Citizen Development Group, could donate our time and effort to building this great monument. I want to especially thank Marino Topan and his entire committee for their tireless work and dedication. You came to me with a vision and together we made it happen. I also want to say that today is a day that we must remember all those who passed away. We should never forget them. But I also want to say that we dedicate ourselves to make certain that no more new names will be added to this monument, that we work together to ensure that workplaces are safer in the future. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Joseph. We've had a song. We have someone who is going to share with us a poem, because sometimes we remember good moments and not so good moments through culture. And we are going to invite here a published Italian-Canadian author, Gianna Patriarca, and she will be reading one of her poems on workplace injuries. Gianna? Gianna came prepared.
We were going to have another injury. Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. Marino and Paula, my God, what a job you did. Ladies and gentlemen, the tragedy that is the fate of all of these men's names was also the tragedy of all the women who loved them, their wives, their mothers, their daughters. I would like to share this with you. It's only 2 minutes, not too long, in honor of my father who passed away 33 years ago. He would have been very proud to be here today, and so I'm here for him. And this is called Dolce Amaro. He has learned to bend the way branches do under the white weight of endless Januaries. This country has taken everything. His health, his language, the respect of his modern children, and the love of an angry wife. In some forgotten lifetime, he was just a young, dark-haired man, floating in a ship packed with young, dark-haired men, towards a dream that they didn't want to bury with the still young bones of mothers and fathers among the ruins of a post-war Italy. For most, the dream did not come easily. The golden paved North America wasn't paved at all. There were years of feeling strange, hot and cold months over multiplying bricks, hands turned leathery and large, and needs stored away deep in the cellars, dark with aging wine. In the evenings, there was the smell of group sweat, cheap meals seasoned with resentment by the wives of aspiring landlords. For my father, the dream ended early, when his knee was crushed by the weight of steel along some railroad line. He was 57. No, he was 31 then. Oh, God, it's hard sometimes. He was 31, and there was no insurance then, and much less interest than now for the benefits of the immigrant man. He bends easily at 57, and he walks with a cane. He rarely opens his lifeless eyes, but the government sends him $51 a month in recognition. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marina.
Thank you, Giovanna. May I have Eduardo, Fulvio, and Mr. Marra ready, please? Thank you. And Mr. Ricci as well. Flags. Whoa. No, please don't follow, because you'll sink in the quicksand of the grass that's not set. Stay where you are, please. Thank you. Flags have been flown at half-mast as a sign of respect for death, for dignitaries for centuries. Today, we must humbly realize that the only true VIPs here on this special day are the 951 men and women who have been immortalized in the monument behind us, with hundreds more to be added. Every April 28th, after today, Village Charities will fly these flags at half-mast for the entire day, as is customary. But today, we are witnessing a previously untold story, epic proportions, so that the flags have been raised until right now, just before the unveiling. This is an extraordinary day for our community, the Fallen Workers Memorial Day, a day which will go down in history as the beginning of the exposure of the Italian-Canadian stories of profound loss. While Ezio Ricco plays Il Silenzio by Nino Rossi, committee members Odoardo Di Santo, Mario Marra, and Fulvio Florio will have the honor of lowering the flags to half-mast for the first time ever, in tribute to these men and women whose story is being told. Thank you to Ezio Ricci. We are now going to unveil, but it's a little awkward. Please don't move from where you are. We do not want any workplace accidents. Although we have many unions I see here, we don't want or need any accidents at all. So I'm going to ask the ARMA to step aside so we can have Mr. Marino. Okay, I understand Mr. Francisco Sorbara and I understand Josh Cole are going to help Marino. You want to invite the local Mendocino? Yes, of course. And if we're going to do that, we want to, there's Mrs. Gurrow, and Mr. Hamed. And where's Mr. Kohler? You're hiding behind Mr. Volpe. Okay. Of course, Mr. Bevilacqua made the trip all the way down to 400. He used to live here. Come on up, please. But we're going to go next to in front of the memorial, please. That's where we're going. So, ladies, watch your... Is Peter Kent is here? Oh, sorry. I only recognize him on TV. Sorry, Peter. Okay. Please, in front of the... Where's... Sorry, Laura. Sorry. The one I know best. How could we forget Mr. Del Duca? I'm sorry. Thank you. I appreciate all your suggestions. And the other good-looking gentleman is going to be speaking in a couple of minutes. Come on up, please. Sorry. Well, when you're next to Mr. Del Duca, you're always good-looking. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Don't move because we'll have an accident. And there'll be plenty of opportunities for more pictures. Thank you very much. Thank you. As you know, when we buy a house or we inaugurate a monument, we need a blessing. And I'm going to call on a friend of Columbus Center, a friend of the committee, a friend of many, many people. He too came all the way down from Woodridge. Father Borean, will you come? Here, please. Get ready. Okay, here comes a blessing from Father John.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, amen. We are the lucky ones here today because we're here to remember many a good person who went to work but never came home that night to their family. I'm sure there are tears in many people's eyes today, remembering that day. A day that you don't really want to remember, as it was said already today, because it's too painful to think about. But they are in our hearts today, and many of them maybe were gone and forgotten very quickly because they were here and some of their relatives were back home in Italy. Burials were maybe even less than even thought of because they really didn't have much. They sacrificed, they worked, many of them even sending money home back to their own families in Italy. It was about sacrifice. It was about family and building family. And Canada has been built on building families, families that have grown and families that have made their mark here in this world. And that's never without sacrifice. Today, as I've come here to pray, I was asked, what language should we use? Paolo Breda and consulted with Mr. Topang, and they said, speak it and say it in Italian, the language that those men who have gone before us, and we remember today, spoke well. And so we pray. Padre, apri loro la porta del tuo cielo, la porta del tuo cuore. A tutti i tuoi figli saliti da te, apri la porta della felicità. Se non possono bussare alla tua porta e se devono attendere, bussiamo noi per loro, con la nostra preghiera quest'oggi. Padre, apri loro la porta, poiché a chi bussa con perseveranza hai promesso d'aprire. E chiunque domanda è sicuro di ricevere. Apri loro la tua casa, tu che vuoi riempirla di tutti quelli che ami e far loro gustare la gioia di vivere insieme nella tua intimità. Ammettili al banchetto che per loro hai preparato fin dall'eternità, perché possano festeggiare le nozze del tuo Figlio con umanità. Diciamo un Padre nostro, che il Signore benedica tutti noi, incluso tutti questi nomi che ricordiamo quest'oggi in questo memoriale di questa giornata. Padre nostro che sei nei cieli, sia santificato il tuo nome, venga il tuo regno, sia fatta la tua volontà, come in cielo e così in terra. Dacci oggi il nostro pane quotidiano e rimetti a noi i nostri debiti, come noi li rimettiamo ai nostri debitori, e non ci indurre in tentazione, ma liberaci dal male. Amen. Che il Signore ci benedica in tutti i momenti della nostra vita, nel nome del Padre, del Figlio e dello Spirito Santo. Amen.
Thank you, Father. If I may ask our guests who were present and cut the ribbon to step aside, because we're going to have to use that thoroughfare for some people who are going to lay some wreaths. So thank you very much. There'll be plenty of opportunities for all of us to see, touch. Please be careful. The grass has been recently installed and it may be quicksandish. So if you're going there, and we hope you do, please be very careful. And I know it's cold, Dottore. As we are going to lay the wreaths, we're going to be singing, the Coro Verde is going to be singing Va Pensiero. For the fallen construction workers, we have Carmen Principato of Liuna 506. Yes, we have Jack Oliveira from the Liuna Provincial Council will lay the wreath, along with Joe Mancinelli, who came. Thank you for coming from Hamilton. For the industrial workers, we have John Cartwright and the York Region Labour Council, Chris Buckley of the Federation, who will lay another wreath. We are honored also to be honoring the fallen workers from industrial accidents and industrial diseases. For miners, Merv King will lay a wreath. We are honored that we are here, and we have to thank all the fallen workers across the mines in Ontario. For the railway workers, Ben Serena, GP of Operation and CP will also lay a wreath. We are honored that they could be with us here today. Also, from the police and fire departments, Detective Sergeant Paul Qureshi, 13th Division of the Toronto Police Force, will lay the wreath. We are honored that you are here to thank our fallen policemen and firefighters. For the general workers, the Italian Club of Rome of St. Catherine's has donated a wreath, and we will lay it on their behalf. Thank you all who participated. We thank you. And on your behalf, Fortunato Rao, another member of our community, will lay a wreath. Fortunato. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Please welcome Cynthia Bettio, a family member of the fallen, to introduce the laying of the honor.
Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia Bettio, and I'm here because my father, Lorenzo Bettio, is one of the men whose name can be found inscribed on this monument. He died on October the 15th, 1999. The families who have been left behind are here because they have been left with memories that are visible everywhere they look. The buildings that we work and live in, the roads that we drive on, the tunnels that we travel through, they all remind us every day of the sacrifices that have been made by those on this memorial. They remind us that we would not be able to live the lives that we live or have the jobs that we have if it were not for these men and women. And yet, once they are gone, all that we have left with us are things, objects that remind us of what they did, objects that remind us of how they died. And these objects become sacred in their importance. What might once have only been a miner's axe becomes a relic, a reminder of the man who wielded it while doing hard work to build a country that wasn't even his. A hard hat becomes an artifact, evidence of a life lost on the job site. These tools are important, not only because of what they were used for, but more so because of whom they were used by. Men like my father. Men who worked harder than most of us can ever imagine, making life better for their families back home, their wives in their adopted countries, and their children who they knew would benefit from the sacrifices that they made every single day, from before the sun rose to long after it set. They may not have been lawyers, doctors, engineers, teachers, or even politicians, but their work mattered and continues to matter long after they've left us. For the men and the women that we commemorate today, that sacrifice was their lives. For them, we lay these sacred relics in their honor to remember that we must never forget them. We must never forget what they have done for each and every one of us. We must never forget the importance of what they left behind and of the work that they did.
This is going to be the laying of the miner's hat and rock. Okay. Luigi Cisterra was whose grandfather is memorialized on the wall, and whose family has traveled all the way from Quebec for this occasion, will be completing the laying of the original miner's hat and rock, representing the many of our people who lost their lives in the mines and the province, either from accidents or post-industrial diseases. Thank you, Mr. Cisterra. Mrs. I'm sorry, Luigi. Thank you, Luigi. Sorry for that. Followed by the laying of the steel. Silvana Huxon, whose father is memorialized on her wall and whose family has traveled from Sault Ste. Marie for this occasion, will be completing the laying of the steel, representing the many of our people who lost their lives in the steel industry in this province. Thank you, Ms. Huxon. The laying of the shovel. Lillian Payano, whose father is memorialized on her wall and whose family originally settled in Toronto, will be completing the laying of the shovel, representing the many people who lost their lives specifically in sewer cave-ins and trench digging. Sorry, I'm shaking here. The laying of the fireman's hat. Danny Vieira, a firefighter, will be honoring the fallen firefighters and fallen police officers from our community by laying the fireman's hat. Thank you, Danny. Angela Iannuzziello, whose father is memorialized on the wall, will be completing the laying of the hammer, representing the large percentage of men who were killed building this beautiful province in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And for future, Fortunato Rao will be laying hard hats, boots, and vests, hoping for more and better safety. And Marino. Which one is Marino? Apologies.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Paul. We hope that you have appreciated what our volunteers committee and our donors have put together today. We have done our very best. In addition to our memorial, we have written a book memorializing all of these workers and our Italian-Canadian immigrant history in Ontario. If you are interested in having a copy of the book, you can pre-order it today, knowing that a portion of the proceeds will go to Villa Charity in support of their commitment to honor the governance of this memorial forever. We thank you for your support, and we hope that after viewing the memorial, you will join us from some refreshment graciously donated for this event by Pizza Nova, Mr. Anthony Fusco, Mr. Tiberio Mascarin, Villa Charity, and Lupanino of Woodbridge. If you get the chance, please also take a minute to sign our guest book, which you will set up on the podium. I think we can all take pride on this memorial forever. It unites the Italian-Canadian community in common tragedy, but it also demonstrates our fierce pride and the struggle which also gave rise to great triumph in this beautiful country we now call home. Many of us have succeeded to make a better future for our families, the goal of the mass immigration. Today, we have not forgotten those who perished trying to make a better future for their families. We hope at least that this memorial has honored those victims. Though there is still much research required on this topic, at least we know that the men and women who lost their lives toiling across the soil of this great province have been remembered and will never be forgotten. Thank you for joining us in what will become known as the Italian Fallen Worker Memorial Day, April 28, 2016. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Would like to introduce you, Professor Bancheri, because we're talking about future research, future writing, future studies on this subject matter. Professore Bancheri from the University of Toronto.
Grazie. A popular story goes, before coming to Canada, immigrants were told that in Canada the streets were paved with gold. When they arrived in Canada, they realized three things: that the streets were not paved with gold, that the streets were not paved at all, and three, that they had to pave the streets. The story ends here, but to this story today, we should add, they were never told that they had to die to pave the streets. I would like to thank Marino Toppan and the entire committee for asking the Frank Iacobucci Center for Italian-Canadian Studies to receive the memories of the fallen workers. It is an honor for me to accept the records of the fallen workers. On behalf of my department, the Frank Iacobucci Center for Italian-Canadian Studies, and the University of Toronto, many thanks for this important donation. As director of the Frank Iacobucci Center and chair of the Italian department at the University of Toronto, I will make sure that the memory of the fallen workers will continue to live and be remembered by future generations. There is an urgent need to preserve for future generations the stories of the first generation of immigrants. Our immigrants, the first generation of immigrants, is getting older, and we need to preserve their memories before it is too late. I hope that this donation is only a beginning to preserve the stories of our communities. Grazie mille.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, we thank you for your patience. I know it's cold out there. We wanted to make sure that you got a good feeling of all that has been done and will be done. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce straight from Ottawa, the minister, I want to make sure at least I get the right name here because they've given me so many paper. Minister of International Trade, the Honorable Miss Chrystia Freeland. Grazie per waiting.
Grazie a lei, signore. Non fa molto freddo, siamo canadesi. Buongiorno signori, signore, ambasciatore, i miei colleghi, sindaco, non so se il sindaco è qua. È un grandissimo onore per me di essere qua con voi oggi. Questo veramente è un giorno molto importante per la nostra città, per la nostra provincia, per il nostro paese. Noi abbiamo una bella vita oggi, ma i nostri genitori hanno fatto tutto, hanno caduti per dare a noi questa vita bella. È molto... È molto importante ricordare il suo lavoro, è molto importante ricordare la sua vita e i suoi la sua famiglia che sono qua. Ho parlato oggi mattina con il Premier Ministro Justin Trudeau e mi ha detto di dire che per lui la comunità italiana è una comunità molto importante, che il nostro Premier Ministro conosce l'importanza della comunità e che la voce italiana del nostro governo è molto forte. Abbiamo molti deputati benissimi italiani del nostro caucus. Per tutto il XX secolo migliaia di migranti italiani hanno perso la loro vita lavorando su progetti nazionali come le ferrovie, il ponte Ambassador, il miniere e il traverso il paese. It's really so important, and I am so proud of the work the community has done here to remember those lives, to remember that work. It's really very moving for me to have heard in particular that personal testimony of family members remembering their fathers, their grandfathers, and what they did. I found myself really thinking about especially the Italian women, the mothers and wives they left behind, and what remarkable women they were to create this amazing community. And I do especially also want to recognize the union leaders who are here, who are working today to prevent these sorts of injuries in the future. So, grazie mille. What a sad day, but also a powerful one. What a wonderful community to have done this important work for the memory of the Italian community, but also all of Canada. Grazie mille a tutti.
Thank you, Minister. Now we have another ministers. I'd like to invite to the podium the Minister of Labour, the Honourable Kevin Flynn. Mr. Del Duca, please join, and Miss Albanese, please join Mr. Flynn. Thank you. You're a good Canadian, and you're used to this weather. Some of us have Mediterranean blood and not as used, but thank you.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here this afternoon and to be joined by my colleagues, Mike Cole, Stephen Del Duca, the Minister of Transportation, and of course you all know Laura Albanese. For those of you that decided to wear a coat today, I admire your foresight. For those of you who didn't, I admire your fortitude. It's a little cold out here, but we know we're all here for a good reason, and it really is an honor to be here today to dedicate this beautiful and heartfelt memorial to Canadians of Italian origin who unfortunately have died at work. I should also point out that the Labour critic has joined us today. I see him in the crowd. My critic down at Queen's Park from the Progressive Conservative Party, Ted Arnott. Ted, welcome, and thank you for coming today. So thank you to all who have been involved. It really is, I said, an honor to be here today. It's been such a moving tribute. And when you think of this country as an immigrant myself, you can't help but think of the building of this country and not think about Italian Canadians. Think about the price that was paid. Think about the hard work that was put in to build this incredible city. So I'm here today, as I said, on behalf of Premier Kathleen Wynne, to thank all the organizers, to thank those that have played such a huge part. We know that an undertaking of this magnitude doesn't happen without a lot of hard work, doesn't happen without the volunteers. Today is also, as you know, the day of mourning. It's a day that we remember those people who have lost their lives at work. And we rededicate ourselves on days like this to make sure that we bring down the number of fatalities, the number of incidents that take place in the province of Ontario, that we bring them down to that number that we all know is the number we're after, and that number is 0. We need to look forward to that day when nobody goes to work in the province of Ontario that doesn't come home at the end of the day. We need to strive towards that. And it's the work that's been done here, it's the memorials that we have before us today that we're able to come back and remember those people that have paid the ultimate price. But also, it also causes us to realize that if we all dedicate ourselves, and that is employers, that is employees, that is our health and safety associations, organized labor, if we all work together, Ontario will continue to be one of the safest places in the world to work. I want to tell you that because of what you've done, since 2003, we've been able to cut the number of workplace incidents in this province almost in half, by 50%. Should we be proud of that? Absolutely. Should we be satisfied with that? Not for a second. We've got a long way to go. Thank you for the work you've done. Thank you to the organizers of this event. Thank you to Villa Columba for donating the land. Please accept the sincere congratulations on the award, on the tribute that you've been able to play today to those Italian Canadians that really built this province. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Talking about safety, we have a person here from Threads of Life, and Marino's been reaching out across the province, and we want to prevent workplace tragedies. And to talk to us is Aaron Petruzzella from the Threads of Life. Aaron?
Thank you, pal. Good afternoon. My name is Erin Petruzzella, and I'm here today to tell you about Threads of Life, a Canadian charity that supports families who have suffered a workplace fatality, life-altering injury, or occupational illness. It promotes workplace safety awareness through fundraising events such as Steps for Life. It is with respect and sadness that we gather today to pay tribute to the many Italian fallen workers who risked their lives to build better neighborhoods, communities, towns, and cities in Canada. The Threads of Life organization echoes that one is too many. I came to know Threads of Life in 2009. On July 13th, 2009, a man named Leonardo went to work for a paving company. He was a proud man of Italian descent whose parents had immigrated from Sicily for a better life in Canada. Every day, Leonardo would put on his safety shirt and safety boots and begin a strenuous day of paving. That afternoon, he was doing the job that he so passionately loved when one of his company's dump trucks, laden with asphalt, reversed. The driver had reversed the truck without a flag person in place. Leonardo became the next workplace fatality. He was my husband. This tragedy could have been prevented. Our 2 children had lost their father, and I had lost my best friend. Life without him would never be the same. Leonardo's name is on the beautiful memorial that now stands behind us. As the months passed, I needed help. I needed a place to put my pain. I was introduced to Threads of Life and was given that support. It was Threads of Life that understood and promoted the importance of safety in the workplace. The organization's founder, Shirley Hickman, welcomed me personally when I attended their annual family forum. Everyone shared their stories. Today, years later, I am able to share my story with all of you here today. I would like to thank the organizers for all the work that they have done to honor and remember workers who have died as a result of going to work. The memorial illustrates that death on the job isn't something that just happened in black and white photos when the city was being built. It continues to happen. It will happen today, somewhere in Canada. One of the ways that we can honor these workers is by helping to ensure all workplaces are safe and no new names will be added to any memorial such as this one ever again. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Ladies and gentlemen, it's getting colder. Just one more thing to do before I invite you all to take a look at what we have done, and B, after you have done that, to join us at Columbus Center to hopefully warm up a bit. But there is, we keep on saying that we are receiving names, we have received names. We have received names over the past week or so that we were finalizing all of these things. We found out 6 more names, and we at least would like to read them publicly. Hopefully we'll be able to place them soon. And these are people who, again, died on the job site. Carlo Busnello, 1935 to 1986. Pietro Caruso, 1953, 1986. Frank Fortino, 1923, 2001. Giovanni Greco, we're still trying to verify the dates. Corrado Cicciarella, 1916, 1969. Italo Leonardi, 1910 to 1971. We will do our best to include these and the others that will come and pay tribute and honor. Again, we are standing on their shoulders. Thank you for putting up with the cold. Thank you for putting up with me. Thank you for coming. Please join us for warmer weather in the Columbus Center in the lower gallery. Grazie, buonasera.